right, hello wine drinking people. Time for more of what I've had to drink yesterday, and this is an event that I've just been salivating thinking about all year, actually. We do this event every year. Actually, we do a Dal Forno event one year, we do a Quintarelli event one year, and then we combine them. We pit the two greatest producers of Amarone together like this time, and only 8 people at this event, and doesn't really disturbed me that much that we only sold half of the amount of seats we had, because it's a lot more wine to drink, and especially when Dr. Doug Martin shows up with Magnums of Recioto. Who has Magnums of Recioto? This is the top wine they make in Verona, Valpolicella, the land of many cellars. They only make Recioto in great vintages, and it is just an incredibly wonderful elixir. So thick, so rich, so sweet, but at the same time has wonderful acidity to balance all that out. And the wine of the night to me, always the 1997 Recioto when it's on the table. So I pretty much knew what the best wine was going to be before we opened up all these wines. But we're still doing scientific research here, and we wanted to see just how the 95 vintage of Amarone was drinking from Dal Forno and Quintarelli. So this year we had 2 vintages of Amarone from each producer, and then we had some other wines on the table, like the white wine, which we started out with from Quintarelli, the Bianco Secco. Yes, the master of red, Giuseppe Quintarelli, God rest his soul, now passed away, makes one white wine. And this is like a lot of wines used to be made in the old time. It's a field blend. It's a blend of 5 different varietals: Garganiga, Trebbiano Toscana, Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, and Sorin, which is a clone of the Tokai grape. And this is a field blend, so they pick them all together and they ferment it. So some of the grapes are riper than others, but this wine has a wonderful balance to it. A lovely bouquet of tree fruits, lemon, citrus, pretty floral notes, a wonderful texture of whole milk on your tongue, smooth and creamy, and seductive hints of that dried honey and minerals on the finish. Most excellent juice. The 2013, one of the greatest examples of this white that I have ever tasted. The Rosso Cadamerlo, they make 3 wines in Valpolicella. Most people make Valpolicella. They make a Valpolicella Repassa, where they pass the grapes over the fermented must of the Amarone, because when they dry the grapes for Amarone, Quintarelli dries his for up to 6 months. Dal Forno, just for 2 months. So that's the first difference between these two producers here. And 6 months means you're going to have more sweetness in the grapes, and definitely residual sugar in most Amarones. This 2005 Rosso Cadamerlo is the same grape varietals as the Valpolicella. However, it is a single vineyard, and it's aged a little longer in large oak. See, Quintarelli uses large Slavonian oak, which is traditional. Dal Forno uses small barrique, which is a very new way of thinking for this part of the world. And the Merlot refers to a bird, which I guess is perched on a tree overlooking the hillside where the grapes are grown. So this is beautiful nose here of flowers, exotic spices, red cherry fruit, very complex, and even better on the second day. Because these wines spend a fair amount of time in oak, they do need a little time to open up. Quintarelli wines after a day, just incredible, smooth as silk on the tongue, a note of sweet balsamic to the finish, very bright and refreshing, even at 15% alcohol. All right, the Dal Forno Valpolicella, he does dry the grapes a little bit for his Valpolicella, and this 2007, a bigger style, but still only 14%. Usually his Valpolicellas are 15 or higher, and a little bit reminiscent of Amarone, because he does dry the grapes, and you notice the oak, a lot of toasty oak in the nose on this wine since it's still young, some graphite, some pencil lead notes, cedar to the dried cherry, more of a dark cherry fruit, a bit of that clay-like minerality that you get from this area, which kind of reminds me of Play-Doh a little bit. And big and chewy wine on the tongue. This wine's got ripe brown tannins, dark berry fruit, and a long finish. Big, but still quite balanced. Still has freshness at the end. That mineral nuance, that cedar lasting all the way to the end. Excellent juice. I like the Quintarelli wine a little better for my taste. The 1995 flight we had, almost everybody liked the Quintarelli better, and I think it's just drinking better at this point. I think this is an amazing wine. It's showing at its peak. Probably lasts another couple of decades because it has wonderful balance, but a big bouquet of spice box, dried flowers, red cherry, and plum fruit. Very complex and nuanced. Quite rich on the palate. This wine's got, you notice the sweetness in there, but still, it has wonderful balance, wonderful freshness at the end, a firm backbone of acidity holding things together. Killer juice. Definitely one of the wines of the night. I think it got equal to the 97 Recioto in terms of first place votes. The 95 Dal Forno took a little longer to open up. Had some of that cigar box tobacco, light smoke notes to the dark spices and dark cherry and plum fruit. thick and chewy on the tongue. This wine very big, an intoxicating amount of alcohol to these Amarones, but still quite balanced. You know, Dal Forno pushes the limit when it comes to alcohol in wine. To me, 17.5% is a lot of alcohol. That's like a fortified wine, but this wine pulls it off. Those exotic spices, that tobacco in the finish, sweet but still fresh at the end. Most excellent juice. For me, the 95 Quintarelli just edged it out. And then the 2004s, which is another great vintage for Verona, and the 2004 Quintarelli had a beautiful bouquet of cloves, cigar box, a little menthol, some orange peel, very complex, dark berry fruit, maybe a bit closed at first. These 04s took a little time to open up, but really showing nicely the next morning, man. Wow, this wine very large, not quite as sweet as the 95 was, but still has wonderful richness and a host of spice and a firm hand of acidity, keeping things balanced and fresh at the end. Most excellent juice. Now in this flight, I thought the Dal Forno 04 edged out the Quintarelli. This wine had this dark cherry liqueur-like fruit, balsamic, espresso, bitter cocoa on the nose, showing some toasty oak spice there, some of that clay-like minerality, and big and expansive on the palate, layers of rich fruit, spice, a bit of heat here at the end, but man, this wine wears it well. Still very balanced for such a heavyweight, and it needs a little bit of time still. I would keep this one around for 10 years before I open another bottle. And hey, they have got a commemorative box of Magnums of Valpolicella, Amarone, and Recioto, which I will put on this offer for those people that want a serious collectible from the 04 vintage from Dal Forno. All right, the 05 Quintarelli Al Zero. Hey, you got to show Al Zero at a Quintarelli tasting. There is no equivalent from Dal Forno, so this one stood on its own. It's a massive, yet still balanced wine, and it makes it only in the very best years. It's a very old vines, Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, and Merlot, and this wine's made the same way they make Amarone. They dry the grapes, and it has an incredible bouquet here. Really just wonderful dark spices in this wine, blueberry liqueur, a menthol, herbs, just incredibly complex, even bigger on the second day. A big and succulent wine on the tongue, that velvet-like texture and a lot of that blackberry liqueur and the host of that dark spices, that pepperiness you get from Cabernet Franc on the finish. Big but still elegant, and this 05 vintage is killer for the Al Zero. Always a showstopper. The Recioto 97 wine of the night again, man. I am just wild about the 97 vintage Recioto. I still have a little bit left in Magnums. Oh, I'm sorry, Doug. He bought them all, so we don't have any Magnums left. And Pete wanted the rest of them too. But sorry, guys, I have to keep one bottle for myself. So I'm going to have to fight it out for those last 3 bottles. But man, this wine is just incredible. Dark cherry pie filling on the nose, spices, sweet balsamic, incredibly silky smooth on the tongue, lovely richness in this wine, very, very sweet, but it has a firm hand of acidity and just wonderfully balanced. This one will last another 20 plus years. Incredible structure here. Hard to resist right now, but man, if you keep it just like this 88 Dal Forno Recioto out of Magnum that we finished the night, yes, I'm serious, and the 2000 vintage Quintarelli Amarone Reserva, the rarest of the rare. This wine only made in great vintages, $1,000 a bottle. Wow, bit of a shy flower at first, though. You know, this wine really didn't open up until the next morning, and just an incredible, intoxicating bouquet when I came in, and dried flowers, exotic spices, cherry liqueur, just dazzling, and like I said, super concentrated and rich on the palate as well. A host of those exotic spices, wonderful freshness and balance of this wine. It will last another 20, 30 years. I'd say you want to keep it for at least another 5 or 10 until it starts drinking at its peak, but killer juice. And the Recioto from Dal Forno, this wine got busted out a little late. Otherwise, it may have been wine of the night on half of the people's scorecard. Wow, just the nose explodes out of this wine with dark cherry liqueur-like fruit, almost like Christmas cake spice here. A potpourri of flower notes, some smoky notes coming out on the second day, some dried meat kind of character. Big and voluminous on the tongue. This wine has a load of rich, sweet cherry fruit, a host of spices, and just wonderful acidity. A little monster, and out of Magnum, you could probably keep this wine another 20 years easily. Killer juice, and that's what we had to drink at the Dal Forno versus Quintarelli tasting. I'm your host, Andrew Lampasoni, signing off for the Wine Watch, saying, remember, always drink the good stuff first.